So it is still morning, with 10 minutes left to go toward noon. And so thank you all for inviting me to join you here for these few minutes. First, the people of Urban Renewal, led by Mrs. Kemp and her team. Then Mrs. Bethel, who called me, I guess about a month ago, to remind me that this event is taking place today. I spoke to Ms. Knowles this morning, and I see that she's made it here as well. So good to see all of you. All of you I consider friends and family. Tomorrow night at St. Anne's Church at 7 p.m., we are going to have what's called evensong or evening prayer. It'll be about 45 minutes to mark what would be the 33rd consecutive year of my being in the legislature, having been appointed first on the 1st of September 1992, and in every year since then, either in the Senate or in the House of Assembly. So if you're free tomorrow evening at 7, please join us. There'll be a reception right afterwards. And that's really the starting point of the discussion this afternoon, is the question of things like loyalty, faithfulness, and trust, and the long journey that we've been on together. We buried Fred Ramsey last weekend. I think he was 88 years of age, and I recall my first meeting with him in Mount Carey Church when he and Frank Edgecombe, who had just run against one another in the previous general election, stood side by side and said that all the people of Foxville were one, regardless of their political affiliations. And that journey began in and around 1997, after George Mackey, the late George Mackey, introduced me to this area in March of 1996. So it's been a continuous journey since then. And still, when I show up to a funeral or go to a wedding, I'm still surprised at who is related to who. Because you have to actually grow up here to know who is actually related to whom. So I was surprised yesterday when I went to the graduation ceremonies for the Doris Johnson School. And I picked out 4 of the students as examples to the other children as to what you can be even at the ages that they are or were. One of them is a youngster named Michael Ferguson, who is 17 years of age now. Will be going to BTVI in the fall to become a plumber. But he actually wants to join the Royal Bahamas Police Force. But he's only 17, and I learned yesterday that you have to be 18 to join the force. And the reason I singled him out was because you may remember there was an accident which took place. I've forgotten, I think it may have been at East Street, where a car flipped over. And he was in a bus. And the lady was having a problem. She was trapped in this car. And he spontaneously jumped out of the bus, used his hand to break the window, and pulled her out of the car. And he went to school, said nothing about it. It was only when the lady herself showed up at the Doris Johnson School later in that day and said to the headmaster that she was looking for the youngster who had helped, in her view, save her life. And it turned out that this is Michael Ferguson. Well, it turns out that as a result of that, one of the ladies who works in my office decided that she would offer to pay for his scholarship for him to go to BTVI to do the plumbing course. Well, we later found out, of course, that once you have the requisite BJCs, the government pays for you to go to BTVI. So then she volunteered that during the time of the course, she would provide the subsistence for him month to month, so he doesn't have to concern himself about job or any of those things for him to be able to provide. The other person I want to mention today is also a resident and descendant of Fox Hill. His name is Claudino Davis. Now you may remember the year 2013, 27th of December 2013. 4 people were gunned down on the Freedom Park. They were awaiting the results of the Junkanoo parade. One of them was Mrs. Kemp's son, and one of them was Claudino Sr. And I said to them, throughout your life, you can have tragedies happen. In fact, bad things happen to good people all the time. But this youngster who lost his father, just as he was about to enter adolescence, did not allow that incident to define what he was to become. And I understand he wants to be a chef. And so let's hope that that dream is able to be supported and advanced. He's a very shy fellow, and he didn't want anybody to recognize him. But I think it was important for them to see that you don't allow events to define you, you define events. And you contrast that to a videotape which appeared shortly after the graduations for the morning, where it appears that some students from C.R. Walker decided that they would have a fight after graduation. And a couple of things I'd like to observe about that. First of all, it's just extraordinary that someone stood up and simply videotaped what was happening. Not one single person tried to call the authorities or to quell what was happening. It was just a form of entertainment. So people who were just in their graduation robes were standing up in a pitched battle outside a graduation ceremony. So it means that everything that they learned when they were in school went out the window in 2 minutes. Like they didn't learn anything at all. And I hope that that event did not ruin the event for the majority of students who were, in fact, well behaved and received the accolades which they worked for during the time they were at C.R. Walker. The principal who is at C.R. Walker today is a graduate of C.R. Walker. She's been, I think C.R. Walker was established some 28 years ago, and she's now the principal. And remarked to some friends how things have changed so significantly in the attitudes of people. One of the observations I made after the Doris Johnson graduation was this: the lack of social skills of these youngsters who've gone through 12 years of schooling, leaving school at high school, and don't seem to be able to know how to shake someone's hand, how to say thank you, and how to engage in a conversation with an adult. I mean, I just find it extraordinary. I find it extraordinary when you're going door to door and an adult is not home and a child is there 12, 13 years old and can't take a message, doesn't know how to greet someone who's a stranger at the door, and how to pass a message to their parents. I've been more or less housebound as a result of the various injuries and afflictions over the last 6 weeks, I would say. Today marks 6 weeks since this accident took place at St. Kitts. So one of the things that being housebound caused me to do is to have to flip through the channels on cable television which are offered to the Bahamian public at large. And I think there's something like 1,000 channels on cable television. All of it is garbage. From number 1 to 1,000, entirely garbage. I cannot believe the absolute pablum and rubbish that is being pushed at people every day. And I say in particular, not only these incessant talk shows and news shows from the United States that's just constantly going over the same material over and over again. But I want to mention in particular these shows where black women are fighting with one another, cursing one another, everybody dressed in the most expensive clothes, the most expensive car. But you can't trust a word they say before it descends into an argument and then a physical fight. And I see this stuff being pushed every day on television. This is what, because television minds the kids. So this is what these children are seeing every day as normal behavior. So we can't be surprised that those people from C.R. Walker, dressed up in their cap and gown, having a pitch battle outside because that's what they see on television. This is real life for them. One of the commissioners of police, a man named Anthony Ferguson, there was a video which showed some police officers using some sticks, beating some people, some boys who were involved in an affray during a Junkanoo parade. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. And there was a criticism of the police about how they were dealing with these youngsters. And his response to the public was, "Don't blame me if you send your rude children to be police officers and expect me to change their attitudes in 6 months. It's your fault, not my fault you send your rude children to me." And he said that just like that. I can't change in 6 months where you train them to be over 12 years. And I said to police officers that I'm seeing too many of these videotapes. Again, no one intervening to stop the fight, everybody just taping the fight. And it's over and over and over, all on social media. Youngsters fighting. And the problem is, as I said to a friend of mine this morning, none of them have 2 cents in a pot to pee on. They ain't got nothing. So what are they fighting about? You mean you can't go to a party and simply have a good time without breaking out into a fight? What you fighting about? What are you fighting about? Just like these 4 people who killed that policeman on Sunday. How much money you think, if they had succeeded, how much money do you think they would have actually gotten from that robbery? Maybe a few $1,000s. Maybe $4,000 at max. And between the 4 of them, how much that was going to mean, and how long you figured that was going to last, how long $1,000 you figured going to last you in this country. And so what sense that made? To kill a whole man over nothing, or essentially nothing. Essentially nothing. So I said to myself, on the policing end, that one of the things the police might want to do is this: to have a division of the police force whose sole responsibility is to look at these videotapes and identify every single person in those videotapes and go and find them and arrest them for causing a disturbance and take them to court And the condition is that if you do not get through a 1-year mandatory anger management program, the charges go through the courts, and the full extent of the law is brought against you. The tail, in my view, cannot wag the dog. The dog wags the tail. And here we are as a society, mortally terrified by little children because they can't behave. In a society where younger people are becoming the minority in the society. The census told us last year that the median age in the country is 35. It moved up from 27 in the last census. So that means the population is getting older. There are more old people than young people. And yet, the tail is wagging the dog. Grown people terrified by teenagers who won't behave. But you know what I said? I always say I speak Greek, obviously, because I've been saying this for a long time. And the society just doesn't seem to get it. So on Father's Day, a policeman is killed. And to those 4 people who were involved in that, I'm sure Father's Day meant not one thing in the world to them. Not one thing in the world to them. And now, they're hiding like rats all over the place. What you hiding for? If you're so big and bold, you can go rob people. Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? So today, I want to thank you all for keeping this association together. I was talking about relationships. And as I left my place of abode this morning, and I put it that way because I got to tell you this story about my friend Loftus Rocco. I was very proud of this apartment, because I live in an apartment, that I bought way back in 1988. So I go to Loftus Rocco and I say, you got to come and see what I've just bought where I live. So we jump in his car and we drive off to the Eastern Road and we pull up into the place where the apartment is. So you say, wait a second, where you say you live in? So I said, well, an apartment. You say, apartment? So I thought you bought a piece of land, man. I'm not going to no apartment. Apartment? What that is? Ackland's mad. You're supposed to have land, the house, you know, and a backyard. But as I left the apartment, I looked around, Mrs. Bethel, and the furniture that your husband made is still in the apartment. And that ties me to you, that ties me to the family, ties me to Fox Hill. I get my hair cut from someone who lives in Fox Hill. I get my meals from restaurants from people in Fox Hill. I made it my business to know every family, every name. The bishop even had to try and get me to drink Croton leaves the other day. Say that was help clear my chest. Yeah. I have raccoon stew from his yard at Fox Hill Day. We're hoping on Fox Hill Day this year that we will be able to have done all the spade work to get the titles that people have been asked to be cleared, to get those done so people can actually have the conveyances in hand Fox Hill Day. I just spoke to the government conveyors yesterday. There are, I think, 20 or 24 lots that have been surveyed. Let's hope we can get that done. But the whole thing has been relationships and progress day by day. There's been a lot of reversals, but my view is that every morning you have an obligation to get up out of your bed, swing your legs over to the side of the bed, and get up And they say departure is easy. 1 foot in front of the next foot, out the door, and on to do your work. That's been my philosophy. That continues to be my philosophy. And so people who are saying, oh, you gotta stay home because your leg and this and that and all the rest of it, I said, I looked on the television and I saw people who were quadriplegics, who were trying to make their way in these automatic things every day. So if they could do it, I could do it. And that's all of our philosophy. I think Mr. Bain is now, we're 94, right? He'll be 94 on the 15th of August. Arthur Folks is 97. And we had Marguerite Pindling is 95, I think, or 94. So there's plenty of age to go around and miles to go before you sleep. So they say that the difference between making it between 90 and 100 has less to do with your blood pressure pills and your diabetes pills and whatever pills they give you to take. It has more to do with the relationships that you have with people, the society that you have with your friends and family. That if you have good relationships with people and with your friends, you have a good chance, if you reach 90, to make 100. So let's all remember that. And I'll leave you with this. The American ambassador who was here, a fellow named Sidney Williams, told me that he had sisters who were nurses, and they were very caring for their father. Their father was 97. And he liked to put salt on his food. And the sisters would always say, stop putting too much salt on your food. And the ambassador said, look, man, this man is 97. Let him put whatever he wants on the food, salt or no salt, you know? Just enjoy the food, you know? So I hope that you enjoy your lives. Enjoy your lives. My job continues to be, and I said the last campaign that I ran as chairman of the party, was what I call my penultimate campaign. The campaign in 2026 is likely to be my last campaign. But I'll be coming back to you and saying one more time for the first time. So in the next year, we'll be coming, you'll see us coming door to door, requesting your support again. I hope that the stewardship has been one that you have been proud of, and one that has seen Fox Hill expand and grow, and a community which you can be proud of. And with that, I wish you well. I know who the chef is, the cook is, and I know the food is going to be great. I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be hopping out myself soon, but glad to see all of you. Always glad to be with you. Remember Friday night at St. Anne's tomorrow. There'll be a short reception afterwards. And the journey from 1992 to now has been an enormous privilege, honor, and pleasure, much enriched by the fact that I have known and worked with all of you. God bless you.